If there's guys out there thinking of making the leap, I want each one of you to say, look, why you should do it. But while they're thinking about that, is there any questions that anybody would like to ask? Yeah?
Just for Magic Vacations, actually, just curious, we're an online website as well, using all the social networking tools, which I think are important, even though I hate half of them, but I think you have to use them.
Yeah.
How do you find they're helping you best? Is there one particular strategy? Are you doing constant updates, or is it the quality of information you're giving? I'm just curious as to what's working for you best.
I think for us, it's kind of a two-pronged approach. The first one is the forums. For us, you could spend 12 hours on the forums, because the thing is, you don't know at the end of the day, if there's 400 registered users, that one person could be posting the same questions all the time. So you don't know. So we are very, time conscious, particularly. We only go on for 2 hours at a given time, and that's it. We answer the questions, but we don't go on constantly, because you could be there for 12 hours. But we do find that certain days of the week and certain times are very, very good, and we monitor it very, very closely. But the other thing as well that I find is, essential is that it changes so often. Like what would have been working in January would be completely different now. So it's really, being really on top of it. You can't really afford to say, well, look, this month I'm going to do X, because next month it'll be completely changed.
Damien Farrell, I do IT systems. I can stop the people getting on your website for all the employers here. But my question for you is, the difference between thoughts and action is motivation. What's your favourite motivational tool that keeps you going every day? When it's, the day when the rain is lashing off the window, you don't want to get out of your bed. What do you use to drive yourself on that you can share with us?
Can I start by answering that, because I've been asked that a few times. People ask me why did I set up smallbusinesscan.com, and yesterday I was talking to a 25-year-old designer who was working on the upgrade of our site, because we're onto our 4th iteration in 6 months, because it changes so often. But what I said to them was, I have a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 10-year-old, and I don't want them getting on the version of the Slattery bus, which is the Air Arran, that I got on when I was 20 years of age and have to immigrate from this country. Now, I don't mind them going abroad and living abroad out of choice, but I do not want them to be forced out of the country, which is what some of our politicians want, because they think that's going to solve their problems. So that's the motivation that gets me up in the morning, my kids. Okay.
Yeah. I suppose I'm a big believer in having 5-year plans, 10-year plans, 15-year plans. I'm a planner. But I get up and I read my plan every morning, and I read it every night when I go to bed, and I think that gets me up, I mean, that's probably being really corny, but I worked with my plan all the time, and this year I had to change my plan. My turnover would have dropped. I mean, I would have had a plan and my turnover dropped by 10%, but I consider myself one of the lucky ones that it only dropped by 10%. Yeah. You have to be realistic as well. But you're working through your goals, and ultimately you have to know what you want out of life. What do you want to do when you're 55? Do you want to keep on working? Do you want to retire to a beach in Spain? You need to know all these things, or else you're just filling in the days.
Anybody else?
I think one of the main things is that, especially when you work for yourself, you have to think, I worked for someone before, and I was good, and they employed me. So surely I can work for myself. If I could do a good job for these people, then I can do a bloody good job for myself. And if you have that belief, that's where I've come from working from a big multinational. I was on sales targets, I hit them all the time, and I thought, well, hang on, and I kind of think that every few months. Look, I can do this because I did it for a very large company, and they, I left them. I worked with them for years. I did it all the time, so I can certainly do it for myself.
Okay, good. Any more questions? Yeah.
Julian Boyd, King's Garden Centre. If you were going to a professional person to write a business plan, to get help with a business plan, who would be the professional person that you would go to? Would it be an accountant, or would it? Who would?
Well, we asked you that one.
Well, I'd prefer if you came to an accountant. But the South Cork Enterprise Board, if you went in one of their courses, would probably be a great course. They actually run very good subsidised courses. And we were talking about one earlier on blogging. You know, they're running one in November, you know, because there's lots of people out there, like blogging would do my business probably the world of good, but it's having the time to get myself up to speed. So, you know, I'm probably going to get myself off to a blogging course with this, and it's only €75 for the whole day. They're subsidised.
Yeah.
So, you know, and they offer a lot of services, and you should check them out, especially if you're starting up a new business and you're on a budget.
Can I say something there? You can't. I don't think you can get. Maybe you can get help writing a business plan, but fundamentally you have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's your business. And one of the things that we've put on the site is we've taken best practice out there of you know, because there's business plan templates all over the place. And what we've done is we've just put in a template. We know where here's the headings, here's some bullet points, and if you could try that first and just keep coming back to it. And then what you do is, at events like this, you're going to connect with someone. You say, that guy makes sense. Can I run my business plan by you? And just start refining it that way. But you're never going to get the full answer. You know, it's something that will just evolve, and you're going to have to keep on challenging yourself on.
Get a white sheet of paper, write your own time, and just write down a list of all the names of people you know that might be running their own business. And don't be afraid to talk to them. You know, you'll be surprised who's in your immediate circle, you know, and the closer, kind of put yourself in the middle, and the closer it is to yourself, the better relationship you may have with them.
My problem is that I've done it backwards. I've actually created
The business.
and I've never had a plan in my life.
Yeah.
So it's time to just analyse it.
Yeah, there's a kind of a school of thought that that's a good way to run a business as well. So
According to my wife.
Not according to the boss.
are we going to take another question?
Question two, Michael Hodder from Lombard. What we're finding more and more at the moment, I don't know where you are at the moment, the importance of management accounts
Yeah.
from day-to-day businesses, okay?
Yeah.
Like year-end accounts are gone historic. Any underwriters at the moment that we deal with are looking for bank statements and management accounts. Are you as an accountant finding more and more companies doing management accounts now?
Yeah, I have a client who, his creditor wanted management accounts to give him the business. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Do you know, it's so like the importance of management accounts are, they've never been more important. But you know, what I would say is, you know, don't spend a fortune on them. Do you know, you'll go to plenty of accountants who will charge you a fortune for management accounts, who will do really, you know, they don't need to be 100% accurate. They don't need to. They're not going to sign off an audit report on it. You know, they're going to, okay, they're going to do an accountant's report. But you know, you could do a good set of management accounts from your VAT figures. You know, and looking at some of the, you know, reviewing the bank statements as well. You know, so, you know, you can't start suddenly because your you know, your creditors or whoever wants to see it start doing 6 sets of accounts a year, you know, because your accountancy fees will go through the roof. But you know, that's why you should try to do as much of the work yourself. You know, try to keep very accurate records. Keep, you know, buy a system like Sage. It's well worth the investment, so that you can go to your accountant and you can say, look, I need a quick set of management accounts. Put them together for me, you know, and they'll review it, and they won't sign their name to it unless they're right, you know, or unless they feel that materially they're right, you know. But it's definitely becoming more prevalent, yeah.
Actually, it's a note, you know, and we dealing with the UK, like, you know, and I suppose they're more familiar with it over there, but, you know, when we ask for direct debit mandate to be signed, like, in return, most of the businesses we sign up want our bank details as well. Full bank details, who's the auditor, who's signing, you know, and they want the banker's signature and so
Well,
on.
if you're buying from somebody now, you want to make sure that they're going to be around. Certainly when you're dealing with stuff that's kind of medium ticket. So, and if you have strong accounts, Jesus, use it as part of your sales process. Put it in as part of your pitch. I am going to be around for the next 10 years.
Public sector contracts as well, you know, you probably have experience in that, but like public sector contracts, you know, if you notice the tenders coming out at the moment, they're dotting the I's with all the financial and auditor stuff.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. When we're now looking at tenders, because we've won some contracts with colleges, so we've been going into tenders, and they want to see your last 3-year accounts. That's fine if you're in a strong financial position, but if you're a start-up company, that does hinder you, because straight away they'll look at that and it goes to the back of the queue. You might have all your insurance, you might have everything, you know, you might have your credit terms worked out with your suppliers. That means nothing to them. So in your second year of being a small business, it can work against you with having these managed accounts
Do you
being
mind
shown
asking
to
me, how do you
tenders.
get around that? Like, how does a
Partner.
small business get around that?
You have to partner.
Partner-
Yeah,
You,
the
you look
only
for
option.
halo brands and
No,
you give away some of your
We
margin.
partner with our supplier, so
Yeah.
basically they tender for us,
Yeah.
and we actually they
Deliver.
award us the contract.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do.
And you do a back-to-back then with your supplier.
Yeah,
It's the only way
you know,
around
but again, like it does hinder a small business in its second year. You know, if you're awarded that contract, all of a sudden, your cash flow, you know, the whole business has improved.
But, can we finish on this one? And this is, do you work the customer before the tender comes out so that you know the tender has been written for you when you have a chance of winning it?
Yeah.
Because some people they're spending so much time chasing tenders that are being written for somebody. It's just a waste of time and money. Every tender is written for somebody. There's somebody in mind for it, in my view.
I don't know about that, no.
Well-
No, I know I'd have to disagree with you actually, no, because I tender a lot, I do, but I think you have to have experience. You have to have a lot of experience reading tenders, because you will spot a tender that's written for someone a mile away.
And where there's a Corkman and a Kerryman disagree, can we finish on that note?